Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas Facebook and YouTube family.
Hi, how are you guys?
Have you guys ever wondered why we are always so chipper, even when we have very serious stuff to talk about? And today, we're going to be talking about something that's pretty serious, and that is
Why are we so chipper?
because this is how we are. We don't let anything take us to 10. Well, you will never see anything take us to 10. And honestly, Rebecca's personality, we were just talking about this, is a little bit different from mine, but
A lot different.
yeah, it's a lot different. I'm not ever gonna I always feel like regardless, God is in control of it and he knows exactly how he wants it to turn out. Now he wants me to do the right thing in the interim, but he's got it. So with that being said,
And yes,
you tell me about yours.
God is in control, but I can still be upset about it.
That's true. And you're going to help him out as much as you can. Right? That's right. But Rebecca, let me say this. You know, this week, I think it was on Tuesday, number 47 decided that he was going to make good on one of his campaign promises regarding all of us lowly teachers and students and those of us who believe in a free and fair primary, secondary, and higher education for everyone and eliminate the Department of Justice. However, of education. However, he said, I'm not totally eliminating it. I'm going to leave about 1,000 workers. There are 4,000 now. So he is stripping it back to where it will be approximately a quarter of the people who have been there heretofore.
And the reason he can't close it, Crystal, we have to be very honest about that.
Yeah.
The reason he can't just close it is because he needs Congress approval.
Right.
Now, I know a lot of you saying, well, the Republicans run the House, they run the Senate, they run the judiciary. But they need 60 votes. So they need Democratic votes. And every single Democrat, thank God, in the House and the Senate will not give him that vote. So, and he knows that.
And so let's see what workarounds he tries to come up with, Rebecca, in order to circumvent the checks and balances. Let's see what comes up. But let's start off by talking a little bit to people about exactly the types of responsibilities that the Department of Education holds. What are some of those responsibilities, Rebecca?
Well, for K through 12, it gives money to districts who are struggling, okay?
Yes.
Or has a high poverty,
economically disadvantaged.
Have a high
population. Yeah.
Poverty population. It also for all schools that gets public money. It gives special money to special education.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that are brand new to the profession, teacher profession, or by now you should know, everybody keeps saying, well, you can't touch that money because that's sped money. Well, you can't touch that money. And there's a reason for that, because state districts and states cannot use special education money unless it's for special education
in the general school population.
School population. So, and they have to account for that money. And the reason why that money is set aside and that money is so special is because that money strictly comes from the federal government. Right. So it doesn't even come from the state government. Right. It comes from the federal government. So that's why everything that is directed towards special ed has to be special ed. So for instance, if you have a TA, a teacher assistant that's in special ed, they can't go anywhere else outside of special education because that funding pays for that TA teacher.
So let me kind of explain that and put it in the nutshell so that you can understand how it actually may tie in to one of your students or someone that you may know in the classroom, a teacher or student. For example, I have a pretty high population. I have right at about 50 special education students that I teach on the different levels of special education. Some have a severe impairment, a cognitive impairment, but they function normally. But cognitively, especially when it comes to learning, they may have a severe impairment. I have a teacher, and the way that this is done, for the most part, they try to put a group of special education students in a particular class, not the entire class, but a group in the class, so that they can assign a second teacher to come in and help one on one,
That's a
or in small groups with a special education student. And it is actually called in class support. Okay. And that means that teacher comes in after I go through the entire lesson. She's not helping me teach the lesson, but when I go through the entire lesson, she will, at that point, I will say, okay, Miss George, can you go over and work with, I'll do this quietly and discreetly, but can you go over and work with Tammy? Or Miss George, can you go ahead and pull Tammy and Kurt and work with them? And I will have already accommodated those students and modified their lessons, whereby if everyone else in the class is responsible for 15 of the um, uh, activities in there, 15 of the numbers that we're working on, I may have those special education students only responsible for 3, as long as I can see that they understand the concept. They're not going to be doing the same amount as everyone else, but they will be working on the same concept as everyone else. But that teacher will actually come into that class and pull, if you've got a special education student, and pull that student and help that student one-on-one. And this is free in a public classroom. This is what you are entitled to. This is what your tax dollars go towards. Also, if you have a student that seems to be struggling, you don't know why that student is struggling. They seem like they're okay in other aspects of maturing and coming along in their maturity as they're getting older. However, they seem like they really struggle with reading, or they really struggle with math, or with learning, or with paying attention. Those special education dollars are set aside for a diagnostician to come into that school and sit down with your student and take them through a battery of tests, and they can determine exactly what the needs are, and if there are any needs that need to be met individually or in a specialized situation for your student. You're not paying extra for that. If a student has dyslexia, or that student seems to be struggling trying to learn how to read, a specialist will come in who is trained to be able to identify those types of learning differences and make sure that your student is in a class where they can learn to overcome those, so that they can go on, if they want to go to college or wherever else that they want to go, and be successful in their careers. I had a student that I worked with one time who went on to veterinary school.
Right.
And she was severely dyslexic, but that was part of the public school education, and those funds were available for that. I'm saying all that to say that when you begin to strip away that type of funding, a lot of times you don't miss it because it's always been there and you never knew that you had it.
Right. And then so that's for that. Then for those of you that don't know what a Title I, Title II, Title III schools. So schools are divided into categories based on their economic standing. So anytime you have a Title I school, Title I schools are for mostly socioeconomic disadvantage, okay? Schools that are likely to fall in poverty, right? Then you have your Title II schools they don't need as much government funding. It's there for them, but they don't need as much of it. And then you have your Title III schools, which are very far and few and in between. And your Title III schools are basically your more affluent schools, okay, that are very affluent. Now, within a school district, you can have all of them,
Yeah.
right? But the federal government still gives those schools money,
especially
to function.
If there's students within that school who fit into that demographic. Yeah.
Just because you're at a Title II school, that doesn't mean that all of the children are Title II type children, right? And I hated to say it like that, but you have some poverty-stricken children in those Title II and Title III schools.
And Rebecca, let me address this because I know this is something that you're passionate about, and both of us can speak to this because we were at a school, and we've talked about this school for a long time, that we worked at for several years, that we felt like it should have been just the model for schools all over the Houston Independent School District before the new regime came about in HISD. But this particular school, with the funds that they got from the federal government, they were able to seek out and partner with a food pantry, Houston Food Bank, to come in. Was it every Thursday? Every other Thursday, I think.
Every other Tuesday.
Okay, every other Tuesday or Thursday, the Houston Food Bank came in, and Rebecca and I, as teachers, the student council took part in this, but they had a grocery store on site, on campus, that the students actually stocked with things, with staples and things that came from the Houston Food Bank, and families were lined up around the building in order to get in and to be able to get groceries, their staples, from this particular food source that was federally funded. If those students had not been able to get food in that manner, we have some students that could very well not have eaten.
Right.
Could have been in a bad situation because they didn't eat. Now, it's so easy to say, when you have not walked in those shoes, it's so easy to say, well, it's not the government's responsibility to feed those children. But
No, stop.
Yeah,
It is government responsibility.
I believe it, but it's so easy.
That's what government is for.
But it's so easy for superintendents or people who are placed in a certain role to come in and say, well, we're going to change the scope of what we're supposed to be responsible for.
So it is the responsibility. Let's make no mistake about it. It is the government's responsibility to take care of citizens who are economically disadvantaged. That is what makes America so great. And that this country has that resource.
And we're gonna put a caveat on that. By that, we're not saying that people should not make every effort.
No.
If they're able to. If they're able to sustain themselves and their families. But Rebecca, let's be clear. During the time we were at that particular school, we went through Harvey and COVID.
We did.
So we had situations with people who were economically disadvantaged and who were hit by two of the most devastating natural disasters. And I can call COVID a natural disaster, or it could have been man-made, who knows, but situations that can set you back financially.
And then remember, we also had a great flood here in Houston.
Absolutely.
And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we had a flood, a horrible
Labor Day flood.
Yeah. That had, it was terrible, okay? And it kept kids out of school for 2 and 3 weeks.
And families did not have lights. They didn't have water. Our school we had a person, Mr. D. Hello, Mr. D. Every time I said, thank you so much for all that you did, because I never saw Mr. D and Mr. S work so hard to make sure that those students had what they needed. And they did not have to know the students. Our wraparound specialist, which is something that's federally funded, okay? Our wraparound specialist actually went out into the community and set up a situation whereby our families from our school were able to go to the high school down the street. The high school was going to stay open until 8 o'clock at night, their showers, so that the families could go in and have somewhere to shower.
During the freeze. Freeze here in Texas.
Yeah, so, because there was no electricity.
Right. So Texas has in itself, not just from natural, we had a lot of storms here.
Natural disasters
here that put families out of whack.
Right.
And the schools were first responding to the issues that were taking place in the community.
And we didn't think twice about it. If there was a need that needed to be met,
we just went and handled it.
We weren't thinking twice about it. That's the type of teacher that I want in a school.
Right.
You want your teachers to have that type of compassion.
And our parents knew that they could reach out to us because they knew when they reached out to us, solutions were getting ready to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So then on the other side of the Department of Education, we have our college babies. Okay. Even though I know they're not
Students.
babies.
Yeah.
Our college students. Grants, loans, school finance happens for them. The Department of Education also gives money to colleges and universities. It's
and
half
individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a half deal. The states kick in and then the federal government kicks in.
Right.
So when you snatch away the Department of Education, that's why Harvard University, if y'all have been paying attention in the news, and I know you have, that's why Harvard University has said that it will be, from this point on, it will have free tuition for every family that makes less than $200,000 a year.
Right.
Because those, and I think in the University of Texas is also doing it.
They're doing a similar program. Yes. And probably others will follow suit.
And I think with the University of Texas is families who make under $150,000 a year. So, but the reason
whose students qualify.
So they are, but the reason that they're doing these things is simply because the federal government now is
pulling things back. And Rebecca,
and my personal worry, as far as the universities are concerned, I'm concerned about all of them.
Yeah.
But my personal worry is about the historically Black colleges and universities who are already underserved
and underfunded.
Right. That's underserved and underfunded.
Right.
If you've been paying attention in the news, Tennessee State University right now has no funds. They don't even know if they could keep their doors open. Tennessee State also won a football championship just this past year, under the direction of Eddie George. So,
excuse me, my allergies. Sorry.
And the problem is that in Tennessee, the Nashville, Tennessee State House owes Tennessee State so much money. Okay, they owe them millions and refuse to pay.
Right.
And now that the DOJ is not
DOE.
I'm sorry, the DOE, Department of Education, is now not even putting pressure on the state of Tennessee to give money to Tennessee State University that they owe. The state of Tennessee owes Tennessee State University money, and there's no hierarchy putting pressure on them to pay the money that they owe.
Okay, let me step in and say this, Rebecca. With considering everything that Rebecca just said, I have to give a bit of a tip of the hat to these institutions of higher learning who have stepped from behind the black curtain and decided to, if this is what you all are going to do, we're going to do something to try to re-level the playing field.
Exactly.
They didn't have to do that, but people are stepping up. And let's talk about that for a minute, Rebecca. How long do you watch the car overturned before you run in and say, let me see what I can do to help, or to try to see if I can pull anyone out? How long do you watch the house burn? And I mean it figuratively, but it could be literally soon. How long do you watch a situation go tumble down a hill at the hands of anyone or any entity who is trying to make sure that the luxury of education is only for people who are in a certain strata?
And you know what, Crystal, that's been the argument, but I have a different take on that argument.
Okay.
I don't think it's about the wealthy affording to go to these universities.
Oh no,
they will,
yeah,
because of But I don't even think it's that. I think education as a whole, from K through graduate schools,
Right.
because let's make it clear. You have the graduate schools where you get your master's and you go to law
Right.
school and medical school and business school and all of these schools. They're under attack as well.
Absolutely.
What I believe is that there is a concerted effort. What I'm sorry, let me step back. There's a thought that educated people are not needed to make a society function. That is a prevailing view, not of everyone, but there's a segment of our society that feels that educated human beings, educate in America, okay, there's no need for people to get educated.
And Rebecca, I don't even think it's that. I think that there is such a fear among some people who are in some places that if the masses become educated, that that line that delineates the haves from the have-nots will become fainter and fainter and more faint and more faint. And there are some people who want that line to exist.
Right. Also, if you've been paying attention at any stretch of an election, the majority of most people who have degrees, they vote in one direction.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and the thing about it is too,
not all of them, but it's a vast majority of people with degrees that vote in one direction.
Well, what happens, Rebecca? And let's just pull that elephant out of that corner. What happens is that when people are exposed to higher learning and higher education, they are exposed to more cultures. They are exposed to more ideas. They understand that everyone is not going to think or feel the same way, and being exposed to people from other places, from other cultures, it makes you have to sit within yourself and say, okay, after hearing that, I can understand why someone would feel that way. I may not feel as they do because that hasn't been my life experience, but I can certainly understand why they feel the way they do, and it gives you empathy.
Right.
Now, when you have people who would rather be told what to do, and you've got an entire um, sector of the community who want to be told what to do, they don't want to go and get the information for themselves. That's dangerous for a democracy.
Right.
That's dangerous for a democracy because the more educated people that you have in place, educated people and people who seek knowledge. I'm not even going to say just formal education, but those who seek knowledge are the ones who create opportunities for other people. These are the people who create the corporations. Every corporation didn't start out as a corporation. It probably started out as a cottage business. It probably started out as a mom and pop business, and then it grew into what it was.
Right.
Okay, but every person did not start out in a certain way. And when you decide, I am here, I sought this out, but I don't want anyone else to have that opportunity because I want to feel as though I am special.
Right. I think it's that too. I think also along the lines of you telling people what to do, um, or people being told what to do.
Right.
A lot of people have a fear of what they don't know, right? And because of this fear of what I don't know, um, I feel better if somebody tells me, because I don't have I don't even want to say the intellectual capabilities, but I don't have the fortitude.
I don't want to think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have the fortitude or the aptitude or
problem solve myself. Yeah.
for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, my dad has always taught me ever since I was a little girl, you never enter a situation without lack of information. That has served me in this 41 years of living. That has been the best advice I could ever get. Mm-hmm. Because every single situation I go into, you can't just tell me anything.
Right.
I go look for it. I go search for it. I get an understanding about it.
Right.
So, but how many people, and this is how truly people make money in business, right? They offer services, they offer products for people to make their lives easier.
They become problem solvers.
Right.
That's the thing. When you are educated, when you seek knowledge, period, you place yourself in a position of beginning to problem solve.
Right.
And I said, it doesn't have to be a formal education, but if you are a seeker of knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to you. Don't ever be someone, try not to ever be a person who you go to someone to ask them how you should think. We kind of got ourselves in that situation here recently by not seeking out the information ourselves. I'm just going to let someone tell me what I should think. And by George, now we're 2 months in, 2.5 months in, and we've got half of the federal government that makes this country run, that protects this country, that keeps this country safe, now in the hands of people who have no idea of how to solve certain problems because they do not have that frame of reference.
And then not only that, I think a lot of people, that goes back to what we've always talked about,
Right.
Crystal, is, the ignorance. Ignorance just simply means not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do not understand how government works and what government does and the purpose of government. See, when we think about government, we think of it in the parenthetical outlook of government. And what I mean by that is we look at government as taxes, laws, politicians and voting and budgets and finance. That's how we look at government. But government is so much more than that, right? Those are the bases of government, but it's so much more than that.
And how do you mean, Rebecca? Tell me how.
And what I mean by that is every single thing, and we've said this on the podcast for many, many years, every single thing that you do is controlled by government. Right now, from the bills that you pay, from the laws that's on the books, and the laws covering everything from family and courts to how to have health care, education, okay? All of those encompasses a law that somebody has to research, somebody has to pass, right? So all of the programs that's being dismantled in front of our eyes, USAID, and I've always called it USAID, okay? But that is the part of government that helps us combat different diseases and poverty in other countries. And
and why is that important to the United States?
And it's important to the United States because we benefit from helping other countries
eradicate diseases before they get to us.
Exactly. That had been destroyed. The national, the NIH, the National Health Organization, that was cut down, right? Again, diseases, vaccines. There is no reason in 2025 that measles should be making a comeback. A disease that was eradicated 25 years ago, right? But when you take
it's a certain ideology that stems from, and it wasn't even, and that's what I mean by when you don't ever want to be of the mentality, ladies and gentlemen, that you will simply let someone tell you how to think. That's the most dangerous place you can be in. We know that science has told us when science is real. Science has told us that these are the things that we do to mitigate and eradicate. When you can eradicate diseases, and that doesn't happen in every country.
Right.
But when you can eradicate diseases, completely get rid of it, not just mitigate it, that's saying something for the people who've put in the time and the effort to make sure another child never dies or never becomes crippled because of certain things.
Right. The oceanic and wildlife program. All of that is being cut, right? who is supposed to track these storms that's coming in? And if you know anything, 2025 was the year of the storms. Storms was hitting the United States during the summertime, back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
Now you know what, Rebecca? Let's bring it even closer to home. If you've got a child who is 3 or 4 years old, and you are I'm not even going to say just a single parent, not by choice. You are a widowed parent. Okay, let's make it palatable for some people. You are a widowed parent, and now you have one income. You have a 3 or 4 year old who needs to be in school all day so that you can go and work and make sure that you are able to not be a burden on the government and pay your bills and be able to do what you need to do. There was a Head Start program in place in the United States that was free. All of those things are now threatened.
Right.
Those things may not be the case anymore. So you will have to go and find childcare for your child. And unless you have a job or you are able to find a job that pays a certain percentage more, pretty high percentage more, you're going to feel the sting of that.
But even if you have a job
That's what
that pays a percentage more, a higher percentage, that money could be used for something else.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So all of these things, but getting back to the teachers, how it's going to affect us. Well, the wrestling lady, and that's how I refer to her, Linda McMahon, who was the Secretary of Education.
Yes.
The wrestling lady. She's following Trump step by step, lockstep, right?
Not asking any questions.
Right. She doesn't even know anything about education. She didn't even know what an IEP was.
Right.
And the IEP is an individual education plan that
For special education
for
students.
special education students. You know, how to help them navigate classroom work. That's basically what it is.
Because the idea of special education students is to put them in a least restrictive environment.
Right.
So we're always going to try to mainstream those students and have them not where they're sequestered off to a room where only special education students are. We want them among their peers because that helps them be able to level up.
Right. So you have this lady who knows nothing about education, never been in a classroom before. Her only job is to follow whatever Trump says. She's a 47 loyalist, right? But what does that mean for you?
And that's what I mean. I'm gonna stop you because I gotta say this here, Rebecca. I gotta say this. That's what I mean when I say you don't have to be a person who is struggling to be a person who waits for someone to tell you what to do. You don't have to be a person.
And she's a billionaire.
And that's what I mean. But you don't ever want to be a person who is allowing someone to tell you what to do without doing your own homework. If she had picked up a book, if she picked up an article or any plans that had been in place or any of the programs that had been in place and look through them and see how it trickles down, would she still have accepted the job?
Probably.
Well, and the thing about it is, and that says something too. That says something too. If you are a person who can callously say, it doesn't matter how this affects other people, and it's just not people who look a certain way. Just last month, NBC, I believe NBC Nightly News went to Appalachia, to West Virginia and Kentucky, and they interviewed teachers who were going to be right in the middle of this storm when this Department of Education bellies up. And they were saying, well, we supported 47 and we just didn't think it would come here. 99.9% of the kids who they teach, and they talked about how difficult the struggle was already. 99.9% of the kids that they teach don't look like Rebecca and I, but they are going to be hit the hardest by this.
Right. So the plan is, as she has stated, and you can go back and Google it, everything that I'm telling you is factual. She has stated that Trump's idea of cutting back the Department of Education is to leave it to the state.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate plan. Put it back in the state's hand.
But West Virginia and Kentucky, they don't have the money right now.
Herein lies the problem,
Yeah.
right? You have a certain segment of society,
Yeah.
and this what I love to call the Bible Belt. And for those of you that are not familiar with, and really Texas is really not a part of the Bible Belt, but it's but I'm gonna throw Texas in there. So you have the Bible Belt from Louisiana all the way to North Dakota. So all of those states encompassing, I'm gonna go ahead and add Texas to that.
Yeah.
Who have been cutting educational funding for the last 20, 25 years, 30 plus years.
And why do you think that is, Rebecca? Cutting state funded education.
Cutting state funded
the state
education.
Part, yes. They'll use the federal dollars.
Right.
But
to cut state fundings, they have withheld raises, they have withheld programs, money for resources for programs.
Right.
They have withheld as a whole. Now I get it. When you look at the dollars of it is based on property taxes and who pays more in property taxes and the people that pay more. And I'm speaking for Texas because I don't know how the other states are ran. Specifically here in Texas, property taxes pay for education.
Right.
And we know the higher the property tax, the more money that goes into that area. This is why Houston Independent School District is one of the richest districts in Texas because of the property taxes that are paid here.
And in the country,
simply because HISD is located in the Ship Channel. They're located in downtown. Every money making revenue in the city of Houston
Medical Center.
Right. Every single money making revenue in this city, HISD has property.
Right.
In that same vicinity.
Right.
So if you think about Houston and you think about all of the money making revenue in this city,
right,
you have HISD, Houston Independent School District property that sits in that part of the city. So that's everywhere. So this is why people of HISD pay more in property taxes than everywhere else. Now it's rising in Fort Bend, it's rising in Katy because the city is becoming more spread out, and we're having more areas. But this is why Houston Independent School District is considered a property-rich district.
So what happens, Rebecca? Like you said, Mrs. McMahon has said that she's going to follow the lead. And, to do that, and I'm from this school of thought. I'm sure not a person who knows everything about everything. But if I am given a position of authority and authorities entrusted in me in order to make good decisions, I want to seek out the most qualified people possible to do my research and come back to me and say, what historically has been the situation when the states take over education? Okay, the first question I'm going to ask is the wealthy states, that's probably not going to be, or the wealthier areas of the country, that's not going to be an issue.
Right.
However, what happens with the poorer areas of the country when the states are already struggling in order to make ends meet with families? When you talk about struggling schools, you're talking about students who receive free lunch and free breakfast every day. That's everyone at the school receives that. Okay. Some of those meals may be the only full meals that those kids get, but that is the case. When you talk about the struggling districts, you talk about things being donated like uniforms, things being donated like school supplies, pencils, and notebooks, things being donated like laptops. And that's a luxury because I know that everyone doesn't get them.
Right.
But sometimes the corporation will retire laptops and donate those to a school district. But then schools have to try to maintain that. And they may not have the money for that.
Right.
So you've got a situation whereby there is not going to be equalization there in terms of the state, not that the state would not want to give the best they could for their students, but they just don't have the means to do that. So what happens when the money from the Department of Education dries up? What did Mrs. McMahon say about that?
Nothing.
So basically she's basically saying we're just going to wait and watch what the fallout is.
She said the states will handle it.
Okay, so when the fallout,
I don't even think they got that far ahead, Crystal. They didn't. I don't even think, I know. They did not get that far ahead. They didn't.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
not.
Well,
her answer to everything is let the states handle it. Let the states handle it.
Okay.
Let the states handle it.
Okay, but Rebecca, if you remember, we were sitting in a legislative meeting the other was sitting talking to a group of legislators a week ago, Monday. And this is what was put out on the table by these legislators. Let's say that the optimal outcome for number 47 and his cohorts is that the states take over education. That's the optimal outcome for them. Now, if that is the case, what happens when you have this privatization? And what Representative Talarico said was this, and people do not even understand this part of it. I didn't really understand it until he explained it. He said school choice actually means that the schools get to pick and choose who they want. Just because you want your student to go to a school doesn't mean they have to take them.
Exactly.
Okay. And anything could be a reason to deny the way your student looks or wears their hair could be a reason to deny your student entry into a school.
Or your students' color, your students' skin.
Absolutely. And
or the religion they practice.
And the only thing that they have to cite is this student does not fit with the
vision of
the vision of this campus. That's the only thing. They don't have to go any further than to say that. So
So with that being said, you know that Texas is trying to push vouchers. Let's chime in a little bit home. So let's just say, as I love how you said it, the optimal response, right? It goes back to the states. And you have a state like Texas that's trying to promote vouchers, right? So that will give, I'm guessing, because again, she's not answering any of these questions because she don't know.
Right.
So, but I'm guessing, just using my logic, right? My educational logic, I'm guessing that they're going to send the money with it, right? Because we know that 47 loves red states, so he'll be sending the money with it. Hopefully,
and that money is to what? To fund public schools or to encourage?
Absolutely not. To fund vouchers.
Yeah,
that's what that money is going to be used for. Make no mistake about it. I don't care what they say, how they, and when I say they, I mean our Texas government officials who are for ed reform. Ed reform is educational reform, meaning the privatization of education, meaning vouchers. Yeah. Okay. So
or the school choice. Let's put that moniker on it.
Right. So what will happen will, and here's the harsh reality of it. And one senator explained it to me the other day, and it broke my heart. But here's the reality of it. All of those schools will get funded. Okay. Oh, and let me tell you how Mr. Abbott is
the governor of Texas
is quantifying poor people.
Okay.
He's quantifying poor people. If you make $250,000
or less
or more, you qualify for the vouchers.
Wait a minute. So I can make $250,000 and have one student and I still qualify?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what about the people who make less than that? They don't qualify for a voucher? No, I think we need to go and we need to get clarity on that. Because if I think we need to get clarity. Let's get some clarity on that.
Okay.
Let's get him to clarify that for us.
Is he really?
Well, no, somebody's got to answer the phone. Okay. But when we went and we were visiting legislators, we told you that Crystal and Rebecca were going to go to Austin, and we went to Austin. And when we were visiting legislators and our
$250,000. So
I think I think maybe the semantics got mixed up. I think if you make at least, up to $250,000, you can qualify for a voucher.
Yeah.
Okay, but you said you got to make over $250,000.
$250,000 plus.
Let's get that quantified. We'll get back to you on that. We'll get back to you on that. But here's the thing. That means that the only people who can get a voucher are people who already are in an affluent tax bracket.
That's the point.
Okay.
That's the point.
Well, you know what?
And that's what that's what everybody has been shouting. The people that only will be able to afford the vouchers are the people that already put their kids in school. That's what this whole argument has been about.
Okay, if we got any state representatives or legislators out there talking, somebody clarify that for us. Somebody clarify that for us. I think that we may have the semantics maybe a little bit turned around, but I think that if you are sitting over in Denver Harbor in Houston and you want your kid to go to a private school.
Now, what they can do with and this is just Rebecca, some one-on-one. Okay, not saying that this is going to happen. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is just my view of things, just from looking at the whole scope of it. There is a such thing, because they do have them in Florida. I found out they do have this thing called private charters, right? So private charters,
lots of private charters
are basically private schools. So
but they take the public.
They do take the public. So that's probably one way they would do it. But even still, with that, if I don't want to take you, I don't have to take you.
And we will get that spelled out for you, and we'll get it in writing, and we'll post it so that you can see this too, so that no one will be confused as to who can qualify for these vouchers. Rebecca, let me ask you this. Now,
but let me get back to my point with that, though. I'm sorry, y'all. That's okay. But let me get back to the original point of what I was saying. What it's going to do is rob the ISDs, the independent school districts, of money and resources and of talent. Is going to rob, because there will not be enough money in the budget for resources. This is why nobody wants the vouchers, because it is literally going to rob the independent school districts of resources and talent
to pay teachers,
and not just teachers, to pay custodial staff, to pay bus drivers, to pay everybody,
to even have enough buses on the transportation routes.
Exactly.
To pick up students.
This is why this bill is so bad. Right? House Bill 6, Senate Bill 6. This is why it is so bad, because it's literally going to affect each and every public school. Now, Crystal and I have talked about this privately. One of the questions she asked me, she was like, well, all of these kids gonna have to go to school though, somewhere, right? You can't not educate. That's not even an option. So what is going to happen? And again, this is Rebecca Williams' theory, being around this business for as long as I've been. This is Rebecca Williams' theory. This is not the theory of the Crystal Texas podcast. But what I foresee happening, and this is just a prediction, what I foresee happening is they will replace certified teachers with uncertified teachers, uncertified principals, uncertified counselors, uncertified people working with children.
Well, there are many people. There's a belief system out there that feels that certification is arbitrary anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why that's false. Because you may have a good grasp of history, you may have a good grasp of math, you may have a good grasp of science, but what makes the certification valuable is the laws. And that's what I had to realize, right, Crystal? Mm-hmm. The laws, the educational laws, pedagogy, research. How do you deal with children, right? Everybody just thinks you can walk into a classroom, teach, and that's your day. When that's not even, I would even say that's not even a third of your day, right? So you have all of these, like Melissa said on the podcast 2 weeks ago, teaching is hard. It's not just something you can walk in off the street and just do.
But not just that, Rebecca. I want you to think about this for a minute. When you talk about a onslaught of private charter schools opening up, which will happen, okay? Private charter schools are owned by private entities, okay, who can dictate and mandate exactly what they don't want and what they want. They may feel that it's fine to have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club on their campus, but they do not want to have a Muslim Students Association on their campus.
LGBTQIA student
support group on their campus. And there, and here we are rolling back to this again, you being able to press forward one type of ideology above another and try to line people up into a certain belief system or ideology and begin forming a society that will be told what to do and will not think for themselves as far as making decisions. Nothing is more dangerous to a democracy. One thing that the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, when they were at Convention Hall and they were trying to get that Bill of Rights pushed through, neither of those groups said, your point is not important or it's not valid. But they did say, I may not agree with you, but we've got to find a way to make this work for both of us. And they sat there until they got it done. It wasn't about trying to strong arm someone into your way of thinking. That's not what they did.
But also, Crystal, you have to care about the country.
Yeah.
Right? We have a group of people that is sitting in government right now, locally, state, and nationally, that do not care about the country.
Some people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. We have a group of people.
Yeah.
Locally, statewide, and nationally that do not care about the country.
You know what? And I don't even think that it is. Let me tell you what I think is actually happening, Rebecca. And we may get some blowback behind this, but I don't care. I'm going to say it. Some of the same people that are sitting in positions right now in Austin that have been sitting there for the past 20 years. Let me tell you what really, really makes me absolutely dumbfounded. How those very people can be terrified into doing something that they never would have done before, but they have become so scared by someone that they will do whatever they are told to do. Now, coming from a person, and that's why I don't know, I may make a poor politician, but let me tell you this. I am never, ever going to be sitting in a position where someone is going to strong arm me. If I cannot stand for what I believe in, if I cannot stand for what my constituents believe in, and what I know is going to be in their best interest, then you're not going to strong arm me any other way. Maybe it's time for me to do something else.
But that's my point that I'm making, though.
Yeah.
They don't care about the country. They care about their positions in themselves. Right? And we've been seeing it over and over again, all on social media, every single day, every single hour. These town hall meetings that's been taking place.
Yeah.
You have a segment of society, and now it's finally coming to light. You have a segment of society now that they do not care about the country. They don't care about the people that they represent. The only thing that matters to them is the power that they hold. And that is it.
So, Rebecca, with that in mind, and let's swing this back around to education, because I am throwing this challenge out to my state, especially my state lawmakers. You've got a contingency here of people who are foot soldiers. At this point, even though it's the 11th hour, at this point, what can the foot soldiers do to make sure that our best interest is looked out for? Because if I'm not mistaken, the legislature has not voted yet, correct?
Oh no, they're not voting for a while.
Okay, if that's the case, my state legislators, what can we do to get to those people that we need to get to and threaten their jobs if we need to threaten their jobs with our vote, to make sure they vote in the best interest of us? I don't care if this is the 10th time this has come across the table. Shoot it down again. And then the next time, whoever is in office who is not looking out for our best interest, we need to give them their suitcase and let them find something else. We can help them find another job. But as far as being in a position where you are pigeonholing our our money for education, that is should never ever ever be a place where you are allowed to have any type of say again. It shouldn't. And maybe I'm simplifying it too much, but sometimes you have outgrown your usefulness in a job. You've outgrown your usefulness. Don't be someone who can be told what to do or told you have to do this or else.
And that's where I'm noticing, and even with the party that I am a loyalist to, um a party that I loved so dearly, a party that I've been an active participant in since I was the age of 18. And I mean an active participant in since 18. That's what's mind-boggling to me about my party. Now I do realize, a lot of them are not in power. I get it, right? They don't hold the majority in the national house or the state house.
That doesn't matter.
Wait, let me finish. They don't hold the majority, right? So because they don't hold the majority, it's hard for them to make waves.
And to become motivated to make waves.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get it. I wholeheartedly get it. But when you are not doing anything at all.
Yes. When you're just sitting on your hands.
Or when you
letting the wind blow.
Make statements like
it's already done.
No, that, or, well, I voted with this because I wanted I didn't want them to, I didn't want this to be a distraction. And I'm talking about the majority leader of the Senate in DC, who is, the minority leader of the Senate in DC, when making statements and saying, the gentleman from New York saying, well, right, I voted for this because I didn't want this to become a distraction. And you basically have given the CR the
keys to the kingdom.
You've given the CR away because you said you didn't want it to be a distraction. Right. This was one of the leverages. This was is one of the leverages that you had, and you gave it away because you were saying, well, we don't want to be used as an excuse. And it didn't sound like an excuse to me. It sounded like a cop-out.
Yeah. And especially if you have others behind you who are energized and who want to go and run and fight that good fight, and they will be on the front line. They realize that you may not feel at this point in your career that that's something that you want to do, but they're saying that with all due respect, you go ahead and step back and let us step forward. Right. And we'll take the torch and we'll run that torch.
And here's another thing too, guys. I want to say we do have, even in my party, we do have politicians that are fighting. They are on the front lines. They are
every chance they get.
They are letting
especially here in our state.
Yeah. In our state, in our city, we got some fighters.
Yeah.
And they are fighting to the death. Right. So I don't want to just say that it's everybody, because it's not. It's not everybody. You have
That's
people
that's easy, Rebecca, because the ones that are fighting, you see them all the time.
all the time.
You see them all the time.
All the time.
And they're the ones that are calling the town hall meetings. They're the ones that are calling the media in when there's a development. They're the ones who are saying, "I'm not going to stop because you're telling me that it's over. I'm not going to stop until that vote is on that floor and they say yays and nays. I'm not going to stop."
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, because a lot of them are not in the forefront leading and they don't really have as much power, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's going to be up to us, the voters. It is going to be up to us. And we have sat on the sideline so much because we thought maybe, once we go cast the vote, we got our people in, or maybe we didn't get our people in. It's over.
We got comfortable.
It's over until the next cycle.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is.
That's right.
That's not what it is. Like, it is going to be incumbent on us to fight back.
And Rebecca, let me ask you something. Tell me if you agree with this or not. This is probably right now we sit in a really good position, and I'm not even talking about. I'm going to pull parties out of it. I'm going to pull parties out of it because I think that enough has happened within the last 3 months that some people out there are ready to hear a different kind of solution. Okay, who may have felt that they had been tricked. Okay, they're ready to hear some different. They're ready to sit down and listen to a different solution now.
Right.
Here's my thing. That leaves us in a really good place of being able to say, okay, this is something that we both want. We are in the same place as far as this is concerned. Take the party out of it. Which candidate is going to bring you to a place where you are feeling comfortable about our education system in this country? Are we going to put into the hands of power someone who will destroy it, or do we want people who will build it up and understand that education is not just academic?
Right. 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 So, teachers, what does this mean for you?
Voters, rural conservative voters.
Right.
What does it mean for all of us?
Well, specifically, since we're talking about the DOE, Department of Education.
Excuse me.
In Texas, you might not have a job. So all of those certifications that you worked hard for, all of those degrees that you went and got in educational leadership, curriculum and instruction and counseling, and these EEDs that y'all went and got, maybe useless.
And here's the thing. They may be replaced by someone saying, you can go this weekend and we're going to give you a professional development class in counseling. Professional development. And you are the ones who are going to counsel students in your classroom. That's the kind of thing.
Right.
Excuse me. That's the kind of thing that we're moving towards, where you're taking all of the value and the specialization and the special training that it takes to be able to maneuver these different fields in a successful way when it comes to helping students. You have a situation whereby all the value is taken out of that, and they'll say, okay, well, if y'all are saying that students need to have a socio emotional learning, go take this professional development class, almost like what we take at the beginning of the year, the compliance courses. And now you're qualified to do this. So they're basically, you're being told that what you have done and what you have earned and what you have brought to the table has zero value at all.
Yeah.
That's basically what's being said. You don't have, there's no value to it.
Right.
In an effort to make sure that education and good, strong education that questions, where people are taught to question their circumstances, is not something that we are pushing forward.
Right. Your children will go to school. School will continue to have that. School will not be obliterated. Even though I know that's what some people want because they've said it. Because I've heard people say, well, with AI technology, there'll be no need for school. AI is going to replace schools and teachers. Well, teachers aren't a part of schools.
Right.
But AI is going to replace the whole education system altogether because children will be able to learn whatever it is they need to learn at home with AI. AI is going to teach them. So, and I've heard, oh yeah, people have said that, well, teaching school is going to be obsolete.
Yeah.
So, teachers, what am I trying to tell you to do? Or what I'm trying to suggest, because I'm not trying to tell you to do anything. What am I suggesting for you? This is your profession that you've worked hard for,
Right.
that you've got certifications for, that you got degrees, and we all know that teacher test was not easy to pass. I don't care what you took it in. You are going to have to fight for your profession. Gone are the days where you can sit back and say, oh, the union is going to handle this, or the people that I voted for is going to handle this, or they're not going to do anything because people need education. No, beloveds, those days are long gone. You are going to have to, and I know, and for us in Texas, we've been so comfortable as educators in Texas where we felt like, you know what, it'll solve itself. We're no longer in that time where it's going to solve itself.
And Rebecca, let's say this because I know we're coming to the close of our podcast, but let's put this out there. Those people who make no mistake, don't ever forget this. Who's in Austin at that session right now? Those people work for you. They don't work for any man who has the largest office on the state capitol building. They don't work for him. They work for you. The minute they start voting against your best interest is the minute you need to fire them. Isn't that the favorite term of one of our presidents?
Mm-hmm.
You're fired. You need to go and tell your state legislators and senators that you make this the last time that you put your name on a ballot from this area because you knew that this is not what we wanted, but you voted against it anyway. I mean, you voted for it anyway. You were fired.
That right. So my message to teachers, though, my personal message to you, it's time to fight. It's time to fight. It's time for you to go to your school board, go to your school boards, and tell them what's going on in your classrooms. It's time for you to write your state representatives. It's time for you to tap into your unions now.
Right.
Okay. One important lesson I learned from the teachers union is this is your union.
Right.
This is your union. They fight for you, right? So you need to tell them exactly what's going on so they can so you can be an active participant. This is about your profession. And if you love teaching and this is something that you want to retire from, and this is something that you want to do, and this is something that you love and have come to love, then you need to go fight for your profession. Absolutely. Period. Gone are the days when somebody else is going to handle it. We just talked about that. Gone are the days when, oh, somebody else will do it. No, because they're trying to eradicate it and put you out of a job. And if you believe strongly in the job that you're doing and the difference that you're making in students' lives, then you have to fight for your profession.
Right.
Now, I will say this also. If you do it and do it right, you will not have to fight for your profession again. This will just be a mark in history. But you are going to have to stand up and fight for your profession. Point blank, period.
And Rebecca, let's throw this out there again because we do want our lawmakers to chime in on this. We want you to give us, and we'll make it real simple. 1, 2, and 3. What can we still do at this point? At this point, to make sure that we are doing exactly what we need to do to make sure that we put a rope around these people's um hands so that they will know that we're serious as far as not as voting against this. I don't care what you promised to someone. Give them that money back. If they gave you money to vote a certain way, hate to put it like this, give them that money back.
Oh, they're not getting that money back.
But you know what? But you know what? If you stand by what Horace Mann stood by in the 19th century when he said there needs to be a good and strong public education system in every state in this country. And the US government needs to ensure that. Who's upholding that now? Are you going to stand up and stand by that? Are you?
That's the question.
I don't know, Rebecca. Do you feel that there's anything that can be done so that we'll say it again, state lawmakers, you tell us. All you have to do, you don't have to come on here, but you can come on our podcast next week if you want to. You can. And you can tell us one by one. If we can get a state lawmaker to commit to come on here, we can make sure that we can guarantee you what, 10,000 views?
Mm-hmm.
We'll guarantee you 10,000 views. If we can get a state lawmaker to come on here and tell us what we can do at this point, knowing that, and we will promise you, we will never allow ourselves and our other teacher friends to get in this position again. But if you can come on and tell us 1, 2, and 3, what we can do at this point to make sure that this is in our favor, please do that.
I agree.
And Rebecca, what do you think right now what's something that people need to share this podcast? People need to come. People need to comment.
It'll be shared.
People need to comment. Let's take a look at some of the comments that we have. Do we have any comments on here, Rebecca? I don't see any yet, but I know that they are coming. I know that those comments are coming. But I'll tell you what, when they do, we are absolutely ready for them. And we know that we'll probably go back to Austin.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
And how easy, why don't you tell everyone, Rebecca, how easy it was for us to get in to see our lawmakers?
Oh, our lawmakers, let's
do a shout out to our lawmakers.
First of all, my representative, I love you, Lauren. Oh my God, Lauren, you are my heart.
Yes.
I worked hard for Lauren to get her into, it wasn't just me, but since this is our podcast,
yes.
I'm gonna say it. I was pushing Lauren Simmons. Thank you. Let me tell you what Lauren is doing. Lauren has a bill now. I don't know if it's in committee. And Lauren, we're going to get you on the show because I know you and I have talked several times. We're going to get you on the show. Lauren has a bill in committee right now for teachers to get their bargaining rights. If need be, if we can't come to the table, now again, it has not been passed. I don't even think it's made it out of committee.
Okay.
Yet. Okay. But if need be, we got to strike as teachers without getting our retirements and all of that penalized. She has a bill right now that she has sponsored for us to strike if need be. Right.
And there's some teachers already striking in some parts of the country right now.
Right. But Texas doesn't have that luxury because of our rights. So, but she has a bill. So Lauren was also labor. She was she worked for HFT. She also she worked for A-Leaves teachers union. So Lauren has been in the labor movement, and she also created the first labor caucus. Do you not know that labor was not even represented in Austin? We were not represented, and I say we because Crystal and I were both part of the teachers union. We were not represented.
And you know what, Rebecca? Let me say this one last thing before we get ready to go. When we sat down there 2 Mondays ago, and we saw, and we were able to sit with those legislators. One thing I can say is this: I've never felt so energized, and wow, do we have some legislators who are on the side of education and teachers.
Also, I want to send another big shout out to Senator Boris Miles. Senator Boris Miles met with Crystal. Oh, I think we talked to him the longest for like 45 minutes to an hour.
No, maybe 15 minutes.
No. It was longer than that.
It just seemed longer. That's okay. It just seemed longer, but that's okay.
He also has some bills that he is sponsoring. HISD, that is going to change the trajectory of what we're dealing with in HISD. Absolutely. So I want to thank Boris for that. Ron Reynolds and Jolanda Jones, oh my God, standing on the front lines for us. They were there at the rally. They were hearing. And I think Ron Reynolds was with us the entire morning. Like, I don't think he even went in his office at all.
But he's been on the front line
with
since the very beginning.
Jolanda has had her running shoes on since she won. Had her running shoes on since she won.
Representative Jean Wu.
Oh yeah.
Representative Tallarico. And there were several others, but there are, and this push to hold back this school choice.
Oh, Molly Cook. Oh my God, Molly, I'm so sorry that I left you out. Senator Molly Cook. Oh my God, Senator Molly Cook. She has been with HISD since this takeover and has never left our side. Okay,
let me finish this really quick. One thing that I want to say is that we have got people who are willing to go to bat for us, and it is a nonpartisan effort. We have Democrats, rural Democrats, and we have Republicans and independents who understand that this is going to be a bad thing for Texas, and that we need that Department of Education money to come down to Texas. We need that. We don't need the Department of Education to be stripped. But Rebecca, we're going to have to go ahead and close it out. You got anything that you want to say before we leave and before we do our little?
Okay. The only thing that I want to express, I want to send a shout out to my family, a special shout out to my family. This weekend was our family reunion on my dad's side of the family. And I just want to send a big shout out. I didn't realize my family was supporting us as hard as they are.
Wow.
And they're scattered all over Texas, all over Florida, in California. They're just everywhere. Minnesota, they're everywhere.
They're watching the Crystal Loves Texas podcast in Florida.
So I just wanted to send a big shout out to my family. You don't understand how this weekend has changed my life, just being with you guys. And I love you all so very much. And thank you for the support. Thank you for encouragement. Thank you for the cries and everything we had this weekend. But most importantly, thank y'all for supporting me and Crystal and our new adopted member of our family. Thank you for supporting us. And not just my family, but I just want to thank everybody who has supported us up to this point. You know, guys, when I do the Rebecca recap, I'm always saying run up the views and thank you. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, for supporting us, for loving on us, for giving us encouragement and support. We definitely appreciate it.
And continuing to support teachers and education. We're not going anywhere. We're going to fight the good fight, but we cannot do it alone.
We can. So I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity. We are teachers, classroom teachers, been teachers forever. We are considered vets in the game. We love y'all. And I know sometimes, especially me on the HISD teacher group, because I am one of the administrators.
Right.
I know sometimes I can be a little harsh, but guys, I want this for us. I want us to band together and get rid of the things that are happening to us. It is not fair that you guys have to go to work and be stressed out and you can't even be present for your own kids.
Right.
It's not fair. You are doing the best job that you can do to the best of your ability, and you deserve to be treated like the professionals that you are. And sometimes I think you guys lose sight on, because we get caught up in the politics of it. And I think that you lose sight on what you actually deserve.
And Rebecca, you know what? Let's just be very honest about this. And I think that this is going to be something. I'm going to say something that's going to have to make us look in the mirror. Before 2012, that's when no, when did President Obama go out of office?
2012.
Okay, before 2012.
No,
No,
I'm sorry. He
no.
went out 2016.
Yeah, 2000.
Well, really 2017.
Before 2017, when you sat down at a table or lunch, did you really even ask anybody about their politics? Was that something? Could you sit down at a table with anybody? I wasn't even thinking about any. We have been pushed into being so combative with each other about something that didn't even matter. So that should let you know that this is a very intentional thing that's going on.
Yeah.
To pit people against each other. It's very intentional. And I can't think of prior to then, I can't think of there being a situation where I'm sitting down and I'm even thinking about someone's gender identity or race when I sit down to lunch with them. Who cares? But we have been fed this bill of goods that everything is just so offensive, and that we should be fighting back against everything. We should be enjoying each other's company. No one is promised tomorrow.
Exactly.
We should be enjoying each other's company. And if we just think about that and think about a time when we made our own decisions based on how we were taught, I think we'll be back in a better place. But Rebecca, like we say every week, and we're serious about this. If there are any lawmakers who are willing to come on here, we can call you in remotely and tell us what we can do at this point in the game to make sure that we are heard, because it's not over till it's over.
No, it's not.
It's not over till it's over. But we even want some rural conservative people to come on here and tell us why they know that vouchers are not good for their communities.
Exactly.
Their voices need to be heard. People are trying to silence that community. Don't silence them. We want to hear that. We want you to join with us. And if your views are conservative, that is fine. But let your views be echoed by a conservative representative who knows the importance of good public education.
Exactly.
And Rebecca, as we say every week,
we can do it. Bye,
See you
guys.
later.